everyone, Carolyn Hines here for Social Happening Carolyn Talks podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I've been really enjoying the episodes, and so Katori, this is a question for everyone, but I want to start with Katori. There's a theme that I wasn't expecting, and that's the theme of root magic, and that's something we don't get to see mentioned in Black history and Black identity. And I was very surprised, especially to see it coming through Diamond, a man. So talk a bit about the including root magic and how all of that actually ties into all of those stories, because the way it kind of plays out to me is that it kind of brings up the darkness in all of the characters and the darkness that they're surrounded by, and how that kind of intertwines in all of the characters and the interactions they have with each other and the characters that are being inserted into the stories. Because while there's all the writing, it's all a roller coaster, but there's some darkness that's just seeping into everything, and they have to learn how to balance the good with the bad and the light with the dark. So I want all of you to talk about that, but Katori, just start talking about that, because I was like, yes, get into it.
Yes, I'm glad that you love it. So our dear Diamond is our resident hoodoo man. We will learn about his skill set in episode 2, the second episode of the season. And, the reason why I ended up weaving hoodoo into the world of Chucalissa is just because it is there. I grew up in Memphis. I grew up with, a grandmama that would make me put black-eyed peas in a piece of foil and put it in my purse so that I can draw money to me for the year. I grew up salting corners. I grew up spitting on brooms. People who know my previous work know that it tends to be very spiritual. But I think that when it comes to African Americans, particularly down south, there is this part of our culture that is very misunderstood, and that of root magic and root work. Even my first play that I wrote was called Hoodoo Love. So that's always been a subject matter that I've been super interested in. And I love the fact that we got this opportunity to weave it throughout the season. And it will continue just because we're so rooted in our fictionalized version of Mississippi. So other people can speak to that as well.
It felt like the culture, ironically, it didn't feel like a new thing. I guess because I too also grew up if I was sweeping my grandmother's kitchen and, I made a mistake as a kid and you swept her foot, there was a process that you had to go through. It was like, oh my God, don't you do that, and I didn't know necessarily, even as a child growing up, that was root work, I just thought that was the way it was, that you don't do this, having Ghanaian parents, I was connected to the Yoruba tradition and different deities. I knew about them. It wasn't something that we shied away from, so I think that it just is something that's layered and laced in the story, because it, again, like Katori was saying, it's just true. It's a slice of life.
I was just gonna say, as a fan of the show, I was loving it. I was surprised by it because I didn't quite grow up in, I guess, North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, so we're kind of the South, but not really. You go other places and realize, no, that's the real South. And so I thought it was amazing. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in that episode, is to see Diamond doing that ritual, and then to see, I don't know how y'all did it, but it's fire when he drop it into the scale and the numbers start moving, and we don't see, all of it is just very kind of spooky but in this spiritual way, not spooky and oh, I'm scared. It's like, man, what's happening here? And so very brilliant, Katori. It was genius. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll touch on you said the darkness and the light. And that's something I really drew from watching the show, the finished episodes, that at times it can be very heavy, but especially the main cast, most characters do see some sort of light, some sort of the light at the end of the tunnel, or the cave, like Allegory of the Cave or whatever, where it can be very scary. You can have a lot of, distractions or hurdles. but they all see something, and there's a hope there, which I thought was beautiful. And some characters do not see the hope, and we see that, we explore that. Katori is very smart to put that in. But it was amazing to see. I guess we call it resilience, but I see it like they have a dream, a goal. They know there's a better way, and to see them, everybody try to wiggle their way through and get there is beautiful.
Yeah, there definitely is a cost for all of these characters, as Katori says, to stand in the sun, you know, and I'm excited for y'all to see, like, even production wise, to see like when these characters are literally standing in light, you know, and standing in the sun, you know, and what they went through to get to that point.
It's also really cool to see a man doing like witchcraft and you never really see it. Diamond's a warlock a bit, you know, like it's really cool. I got a chance to walk through his living space, and I always say I'm a bit witchy. I'm a good witch, of course. But I be like, I'll put the root on your ass. Not really, I don't have a spell or anything like that. But coming from New England, like it's just, that's kind of part of our culture. It gets really fun around Halloween. And we, of course, there's like Salem witch trials that happened in Massachusetts and all of that really cool stuff. I'm really into stuff like that. One of my favorite plays is Hoodoo Love. So to walk through that space, and Diamond has a shrine, which is really, really cool. And he has this case with these things in it. I saw like, I think a rattlesnake tail and some dragon blood. And I'm like, this is so cool. I want one of these things in my house. I don't even know how to use it, but I want it. And it's just, that scene in episode 2 is just so cool. I haven't seen anything like it. And it marries so well with just everything else that's happening in this world. It just goes so beautifully with the culture, you know. We're in the South, so it's perfect. Yeah, one of my favorite scenes by far, for sure. Very cool.
And Brandee, can you just talk a bit about that scene in particular that everyone is referencing? It was like, what is going on here? But then but then you realize that everything isn't perfect or healed. Like she still it's like, it doesn't complete everything. So just talk a bit about that scene and like the journey of Mercedes from that moment.
Ooh, let me tell you that was honestly, when I read it, Katori, I don't think I told you, but that might've been the one that scared me the most, the scene that I had to do the most, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about it. So having to do the research to make it look authentic, to want to give it service to what Katori has written as well. I was nervous, and I'm a PK. So a part of me at first was like, ooh, what am I doing, God? And I was like, if you don't do your research, girl. And so I learned through this process as well. It was beautiful. It's still, like Alphonse says, it takes me back. I've watched it 3 times now, and I'm just like, wow, like the feeling felt real in that cabin that evening as well. And being that I'm injured or was injured as well then too, like it was just like, I just kind of tried to drop into the feeling of this, like in wanting and needing that healing, which is sometimes deeper than just the physical. So I think that was really beautiful to portray on screen. It was very difficult and it scared me, but you know, be afraid and do it anyway. So I'm very glad that I was able to have that moment. And like Alphonse says, you know, as an actor, to be able to play with those colors and do something different, because I have not seen that either. I was trying to Google stuff. I'm like, girl, it ain't nothing on TV or on YouTube that's gonna help you with this. You're just gonna have to tap into what Mercedes would be in this moment.
Thank you so much. And the only time I've ever seen Brute Magic on screen is a short film by Brandee Newsome, and it was called Wake, and it was just like, aha. So second time around. And I'm from the Caribbean. We don't do the whole brushing your feet thing, Nicole. We don't play. You know, we don't see exactly. Thank you so much for your answers, everyone.